Hello, this is Stephen Anderson, pastor of Faith Forward Baptist Church. I just wanted to record this video while everything's still fresh in my mind to tell the story about what happened to me last night. I was driving back from San Diego to Phoenix. Today is Wednesday the 15th. This was yesterday on the 14th. I'm driving back from San Diego to Phoenix, and I go through a Border Patrol suspicionless internal checkpoint. This is about maybe 75 miles east of Yuma on Interstate 8, somewhere around there. And I get stopped at the checkpoint, and they start asking me questions. I refused to answer the questions. They wanted to search my vehicle. I didn't allow them to search my vehicle because of my Fourth Amendment rights not to be searched without a warrant. And they referred me over to secondary inspection area. I said, no, I'd like to go on my way. I would like to go home. And they insisted I went to secondary. Well, then they bring a dog over and they say, well, the dog alerted us that there are drugs or a human being in your trunk. He's trained to do that, and so now we have probable cause to inspect you. Now, the dog didn't bark, the dog didn't make a sound, and I asked them to tell me, well, what did the dog do to tell you that? Because the dog just walked over, sniffed, and pretty much walked away. And I asked them to bring the dog over a second time and show me. They refused to do it. I never saw the dog again. So I sat there for over an hour just waiting for them to let me go. They just held me there. They wouldn't let me go anywhere. Well, after a little over an hour, the DPS showed up, the Department of Public Safety, which is basically like the Highway Patrol of Arizona, shows up and says that I'm under arrest because they had probable cause to search my car, and I'm refusing to get out of the car and let them search the car. Well, I told the DPS officer, I said, look, you know, the dog didn't do anything. I said, ask them to bring the dog out and show you, because I said the dog did not detect anything. I said there's nothing in the trunk except tools. Well, the DPS officer asked the Border Patrol if they would get the dog out, and they told him no. So basically they told me, well, you know, you're coming out of this car one way or the other, and we're going to search this car whether you like it or not. They told me, you know, cover your eyes because there's going to be glass when we break this window in. So I put my hands over my face like this, and I leaned forward to cover my eyes. And at that moment, not only did the officer on the passenger side break the window, but another hammer just came from out of nowhere. I didn't see this coming at all, and shattered the window right behind my head. I mean, 6 inches from my head. So both windows shattered in the same instant. I'm like this with my face in my hands, and at that moment, I'm shot by tasers. So I'm in excruciating pain. I couldn't even control my body anymore, because when you're hit with these tasers, you're paralyzed. And so I couldn't even, my hand came down from my face. I was trying to put my hand back in front of my face. I couldn't even control my arm. I'm screaming in pain. I'm shot with another taser. One guy from the Border Patrol grabs my head and basically shoves it into the driver door where the broken glass was, where they had just busted out the window. And I could just feel the glass shoving into the side of my head here as he just jammed my face into that side of that door and held it there for a little while. It's hard for me to measure the time because I was in so much pain it felt like it was taking forever. Then they grabbed me, threw me on the ground. Another officer stepped on my head. I mean, it felt like his full body weight, and basically was just driving my face down into more broken glass, asphalt, which is what all these cuts are. And they're just torturing me with these tasers again and again, and they're stepping on my head. They're shoving my face in broken glass for no reason. I wasn't resisting them. I wasn't fighting back. I was just limp, just begging for mercy. They said, you know, they put my hands behind my back, they handcuffed me, and blood was on my face. I saw my reflection for a moment, and there was literally not 1 square centimeter of my face that was not covered in blood. I mean, my face was just solid blood. I looked like a monster. Oh yeah, and then C. Diaz told me, well, if you would have just answered the question, we would have let you go.
So tonight, we were asking the question, why was this level of force used? Well, Border Patrol says it was officers with the Arizona Department of Public Safety that stepped in and used the tasers.
And we are still waiting for a statement.
I got stopped at one of these, Border Patrol checkpoints. Of course, I wasn't crossing a border. I was just on Interstate 8, just minding my own business, trying to get home from work. I was tired. I'd been up since, 5:30 in the morning working, and I was going down this freeway, and I got stopped at this checkpoint, federal agents, Border Patrol.
Fourth Amendment says that warrants for searches have to be upon probable cause. I mean, I can't just be searched just randomly without a warrant, without probable cause, just because I'm driving down the road, coming home from work, minding my own business. There's another amendment to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, the Fifth Amendment, which says, and it's been interpreted by the Supreme Court over and over again, that says I have the right to remain silent, not just when I'm under arrest, but I do not have to answer questions about, where I'm going, what I do for a living, where I'm, what's happening, and so forth. Well, I basically invoked my Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights. And 10 minutes into this, I told them, I'm a U.S. citizen. I was not resisting. I was not struggling. I was not fighting. I had my face in my hands in my lap, defenseless. And they shot me with tasers. And I was just, screaming in pain. Just, And I wasn't shot with one. I'm saying they were shooting me repeatedly with these. I don't know. I don't think they're designed to be shot more than one. I'm paralyzed. I'm in excruciating pain. A Border Patrol agent grabs my head and shoves it into the place where the broken window just was. But this is the thought that came to my mind. I read a book, but we had to read this when I was in school growing up, 1984 by George Orwell. As I'm laying there with this guy's boot on my face at full force, I remembered this was one of the major quotes from the book. The evil guy from the wicked 1984 government, toward the end of the book somewhere, I don't remember, but when they're torturing the main character in the book, this quote came into my mind. If you want a vision of the future, imagine a boot stepping on a human face forever. And that's what this guy was saying, like basically promoting this totalitarian government of 1984. I saw all the screens of all the cameras. He had a ton of cameras at this checkpoint, and so the footage is all on tape. I've already spoken to a lawyer. That footage is going to be in my possession of me being beaten and abused for no reason, defenseless. And I'm going to tell you, this is another parallel that made me think of Isaiah 53. They brought me in, cuffed me behind my back, set me in a chair, and they began to laugh at me. They laughed and mocked me and made fun of me. They thought it was fun. I'm going to tell you something. Those people are inhuman. They're inhuman. They thought it was fun to torture me. They thought it was fun to have me writhing on the ground. I felt like I was on fire. And they thought it was funny, and they laughed about it, and they joked about it. This is a real story. This just happened to me last night. They made fun of me, they laughed at me, and they said, if you would have just answered the question, they said, we would have let you go. They took me, they booked me into the county jail like a criminal, chained up my feet, chains around my stomach, chained up my hands, treated me like I'm some kind of a murderer. And you say, well, Pastor Anderson, why don't you just go along with it? You know what? Because my freedom means something to me. And if it doesn't mean anything to you, you need to study this country. You need to understand the country you're living in. Because people in this world do not live in free societies. But thank God in America we do. And people in China today are not free. They're being forced to be sterilized. They're being forced into abortions. There's a one-child per family policy. People in Africa are starving and being oppressed by evil dictators. Hey, this world is not free. But this country is free. Our Bill of Rights still exists. Thank God we have the right not to be stopped and searched for nothing. For nothing. Arrested for nothing. Beaten for nothing. And then, I'm going to court on Friday at 10 a.m. And you know what I'm going to plead? Not guilty. And I'll tell you what I'm being charged with. Two things. Number one, failure to obey a legal command from a police officer. Wait a minute. Not a legal command to force me to be searched against the Fourth Amendment.
That's right.
I failed to obey. I failed to relinquish my rights. To just travel freely without being molested, without being harassed. This was the vision of the Founding Fathers. And I'm going to tell you something. And the second charge. Two charges. They're both misdemeanor. The second charge, blocking a public highway. Blocking a public highway! Of course, they've got the whole roadblock set up. They slowed me down, but I was blocking the highway. You better know, I spoke to a lawyer, he said I'm right, he said the law's on my side, and I am not guilty, my friend.
Amen.
This is the world we're living, this is the America we're living in, and you know what's funny? It's all because of 9/11. Listen to me. Listen how stupid this is for a minute. Because of 9/11, 3,100 and some people died, we must give up liberties. Wait a minute. How many people died to give us the liberties?
Right.
Because there was a lot more than 3,000.
Yeah, right.
I mean, we're talking about tens of thousands who've shed their blood and given their life and said, we want to preserve the United States a free country. But it only took 3,100 and some odd deaths to take away our freedom.